Lewis, that sounded like a tough day in the car. How was it out there today?
Not fun. It's a beautiful place. The weather's been amazing. But no, not a good day.
You've got a lot of experience. You've had tough times before. How do you use that to get you through this and I guess motivate people in the team as well?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm motivating the team at the moment. I mean, you just keep your head down. You just keep working away. It's just, you just don't give up. You just keep going. You keep pushing. You keep trying to focus on solving the issues, and which we'll try to do. But you arrive on a Friday and you're hoping for a good day, and then it doesn't go well. But then you have a weekend in Monaco where all of a sudden the car feels great, and then honestly I thought the car was going to be good today, but it wasn't too bad in P1. In P2 was quite a lot worse, and so naturally that's frustrating for everyone. But we had some problem which meant we were losing some downforce. So hopefully with that fixed for tomorrow, we'll be in a better place.
Can you imagine Lewis Hamilton saying that a Formula One car is impossible to drive? Well, that was exactly what happened in the Grand Prix of Spain. What is happening inside Ferrari so that the 7-time world champion reaches that point of despair? In the heart of the Circuit of Barcelona-Catalunya, a route that requires surgical precision and a balanced car like few others in the calendar, something broke between Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari. This circuit, historically used as a technical reference to evaluate the pure performance of a car, was the scenario in which the 7-time world champion showed what until now was only sensed. The SF-25 is not up to the height of its talent or of the expectations that were deposited in its signing. It was not a veiled criticism or a diplomatic suggestion. It was a direct and painful sentence. Hamilton openly stated that the car is not manageable, and did not at a time of passing frustration, but after a complete practice session in which he faced an unpredictable, unstable machine, and in which each curve was a battle. The emotional burden behind those words cannot be understood without going back a few months. When Hamilton announced his surprise departure from Mercedes to join Ferrari, a wave of enthusiasm and hope was generated. It was a historical movement. The most successful champion of the modern era, in search of his 8th title, joined the most legendary team of motoring. The narrative was perfect. Ferrari's redemption, Hamilton's last crusade. But the perfect stories do not always find their reflection on the track. From the first preseason test, it was clear that the SF-25 was a difficult car. Unstable in braking, lacking traction in slow outputs, and with an extremely narrow performance window in tire configuration. Even so, Hamilton remained silent, working with his team to understand the car, trying to integrate into a structure very different from Brackley's. Barcelona, however, was the breakdown point. The Catalan route does not forgive. Each curve, each change of support, each phase of aerodynamic load exposes the defects of any design. And the SF-25, despite having shown some flashes of competitiveness in previous sessions, collapsed before the demands of the circuit. The third place in FP1 was a statistical illusion, a mirage fed by specific circumstances. Hamilton knew it. Therefore, when he got out of the car and looked at his engineer with disbelief, it was not by surprise, but by confirmation. Confirmation that the car they promised is not close to the level required to win championships. This emotional act of sincerity breaks with the traditional narrative of Ferrari. Historically, the Italian team has tried to protect its image before the media, maintain a facade of progress, even in the midst of technical crises. But Hamilton is not just any pilot. He is not there to settle. He is there to win. And what he saw, felt, and suffered in Barcelona made it clear. The SF-25 is not a championship weapon. It is a broken project, full of technical contradictions and design decisions that are even preventing a pilot from the Hamilton caliber from dominating him. This is not just a performance problem. It is a scream of technical aid that could mark the tone of the rest of the season. What seemed in the first session an incipient discomfort became, in the FP2, into an open crisis. Lewis Hamilton, who came from marking a competitive time in FP1, could not even stay within the top 10 during the second practice. It ended in the 11th position, almost 8 tenths from the best time marked by Oscar Piastri. But more revealing than the timetable was his direct radio message, and without filters, "The car is notable, mate." That phrase has a specific weight within the world of Formula One. It is not that the car has subviring, flying, rebounding, or instability. It is that the pilot has completely lost the connection with the machine. He has stopped trusting her. And that, for a pilot of Hamilton's profile, is devastating. During the FP2, it was clear that the loss of performance was not due to a configuration error or a changing track. It was a constant collapse in the ability of the SF-25 to adapt to the basic needs of Hamilton. The car did not respond consistently in braking. It was erratic in the midst of fast curves and became particularly unstable when trying to maximize grip with the softer compounds. The team tried to adjust the configuration, but no change seemed to take effect. The times did not improve, but more importantly, Hamilton's trust was eroding with each lap. The frustration of the British pilot is not limited to a technical complaint. What was lived in that garage was a progressive disconnection between what Hamilton needed and what the car could give it. And in Formula One, the relationship between pilot and engineer is a millimeter dance. When that synchrony breaks, it is not enough to modify the front wing or the geometry of the rear suspension. The problem is conceptual. Hamilton directly questioned if the rest of the grille was using hard compounds, in an attempt to find a logic that justified his experience at the wheel. That question was not technical. It was existential. Is it me or is it the car? A lethal question for any elite pilot. Engineer Riccardo Adami tried to give technical answers. High degradation, lack of grip with soft, complicated track conditions. But Hamilton was not looking for data. I was looking for a consistent explanation to why, with all the resources Ferrari has at your disposal, it is in such a committed situation. This dissonance between what was expected and what is happening has direct consequences not only on track performance, but also in the internal dynamics of the team. Because if the most experienced and successful pilot of the grille cannot interpret the car's behavior, then who can? At this point, the conversation ceases to be only technical and enters the field of psychological. Hamilton, accustomed to working with highly organized structures such as Mercedes, is now in a Scuderia where decisions seem to respond more to improvisation than a long-term development logic. His frustration is that of someone who has invested his reputation, his legacy, and his last years in Formula One in a project that, until now, is failing him in the most basic aspects. The lack of clear direction, the disability of the car to respond predictably, and the feeling of being trapped in a cycle of fruitless adjustments are eroding the pilot's morale. The consequences of what happened in the 2025 Grand Prix are not limited to a bad day or a complicated weekend. What Hamilton has left in his statements goes far beyond the punctual. It is a frontal diagnosis and without anesthesia about a car that does not meet the minimum expectations to compete at the highest level. In an environment as political and calculated as Ferrari, that one of his own pilots, and nothing less than the most award in the history of Formula One, publicly exposes that the car is unmanageable represents a total rupture in the narrative that the team tries to build internally and towards the media. This statement implies, in practice, that the technical development of SF-25 could be aimed at the wrong direction. And that possibility is devastating at this point in the championship. Because if the car has a wrong design philosophy from its conception, then there are no number of configurations, aerodynamic improvements, or mechanical adjustments that magically make it a contender. It means that Ferrari once again has failed at the starting point. The most worrying thing is that this would not be the first time. Throughout the last decade, the Scuderia has been the victim of repetitive cycles. Hopeful beginnings followed by structural disappointment. The SF-25 until now seems to join that list. For Hamilton, this experience is affecting more than its performance. He is wearing his legacy. He arrived in Ferrari with the clear ambition to reach his 8th title, to close his career with a monumental challenge. But what he is facing is a team still caught in his own inertia of technical inefficiency. A car that does not respond to the demands of one of the most precise, methodical, and sensitive pilots to the car's behavior. And that sends a dangerous signal to the rest of the paddock. If Hamilton cannot extract performance from the SF-25, then it is very likely that the problem is in the car and not on the pilot. The immediate projection for Ferrari is gloomy if no drastic decisions are made. It's not just about bringing a new improvement package for the next Grand Prix. It is about reviewing the architecture of the car, redefining priorities within the technical department, and above all, to restore the confidence of the pilot who is supposed to lead his project to the championship. The communication between Hamilton and his engineer Riccardo Adami during the practices showed a growing disconnection. Adami, accustomed to working with pilots more submissive to Ferrari philosophy, now faces a Hamilton that demands immediate responses, concrete actions, and verifiable results. This tension, if not properly managed, can lead to an internal fracture difficult to repair. In the long term, the real risk is that Hamilton loses faith in the project. And if that happens, Ferrari will not only lose a pilot, He will lose the possibility of restructuring from the leadership of one of the most strategic and influential competitors of his generation. Recent history has already shown what happens when Ferrari lets talent escape for not living up. The case of Sebastian Vettel is a living example. A worldwide tetrampone that ended his stage in Maranello without ever had a truly capable car of you with Mercedes or Red Bull. The parallelism with Hamilton begins to become disturbingly evident. The key question is now if Ferrari will react on time. It is not enough to recognize that there is a problem. They must make brave, although uncomfortable decisions. Rethink your technical approach, restructure areas of development, and even question the internal hierarchies that have been perpetuating wrong decisions for years. Otherwise, the 2025 season runs the risk of becoming another chapter of broken promises and wasted opportunities. And Lewis Hamilton, instead of living an epic of redemption with Ferrari, could be trapped in a professional nightmare from which neither their experience nor their talent can take it out. Now it's your turn. After everything we have analyzed, after listening to Hamilton, saying that his car cannot be handled and seeing how Ferrari, in one of the most revealing circuits in the calendar, was left without technical responses, what do you think? Are we witnessing the beginning of an inevitable fracture between the most successful pilot of all time and the most legendary team of Formula One? Do you think this crisis can be reversed with internal work and patience? Or are we seeing the first indications of another history of frustration in Maranello? Leave it in the comments. What do you think Ferrari should do to recover the course?